There's never been the mob here in Las Vegas. That's all there is to it. You never heard it from me. Okay, all right. So some of you are not buying this. Okay. Yes, there was the mob here in Las Vegas, but at the beginning of Las Vegas, there was no such thing as a mob. The mob came, or organized crime, or Bugsy Siegel and all those other guys, Meyer Lansky and all those other guys. They did not come into Las Vegas lore until there came an opportunity to build casinos, and they needed a place to, launder their money and have a good time in some cases, and that's kind of the where it was. But the founding of Las Vegas really was not mob influenced at all. Las Vegas, which means the Meadows, was just a way station because we have a spring. And many of you know where Springs Preserve is at. That's the original site of the spring that, or in that close area, that travelers who were going to LA from the East Coast to LA, they stopped by and they said, "Hey, there's a little water hole here. Let's stop here." And from that came people who said, "Hey, this is not a bad place to stop." And they built Las Vegas. Years later, folks, years later, the mob, the influence of the mob, whatever you want to call it, became, they invested in property here in Las Vegas. I know it sounds all official, right? They invested in property here in Las Vegas and built first casinos and were able to use them as recreational places. They recreated here in Las Vegas, and for a few years. So what does that have to do with Lake Mead? Okay, let's talk about Lake Mead. Well, one of the practices, from what I've heard and what I understand, of mobsters to get rid of people who they want to poignantly stay silent is to put them in 55-gallon drums, dump them in a lake. Okay. 55-gallon drums. I know this makes some of it, you're saying, wow, this sounds very familiar. 55-gallon drums, dump them in a lake. They just recovered a body out of Lake Mead. So people are saying that this has all of the markings of a mob type practice. Okay, we don't know this, folks. Nobody knows this. I once again, I have never seen a mobster. I've only heard lore about them. I don't know if there's any mobsters here. Definitely, there's no mob influence in Las Vegas currently. Okay, and I've lived here in Vegas since the early '60s. Okay, I have never known mobsters to have an influence in Las Vegas. I have a straight face, right? I know. So we've never had anybody working in higher office who's ever worked with mobsters, other than our former mayor. But Las Vegas is a wholesome place where you can bring your kids up and stuff like that.